A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to another issue of GWK The First Impressions. So of course, we've had a good amount of contenders come and go. One in particular though that I decided to pick up as the last entry for January of 2025 is known as Sniper Elite Resistance. This is our latest contender in the Sniper Elite series, which of course was made possible by the likes of Rebellion, whom have been well known over the years for the likes of Sniper Elite, as well as Zombie Army. I almost wonder, how is there no more Zombie Army titles out there? They both have a good take on World War II and the many events that took place, and were even able to build up some original storylines as a result of real-life World War II phenomenon and events that took place over the years, especially in the likes of Europe, Germany, France, Spain, Poland, etc. Many locales are indeed visited, including some island territories, in the Sniper Elite games especially. And with the Zombie Army games, it's more of an alt-universe sort of thing, where the Nazi army was responsible for creating some sort of undead apocalyptic situation. In terms of the Sniper Elite series though, this was more bent on the likes of stealth, combat, as well as infiltration. In terms of Resistance, it's a bit of a different change of pace right from the get-go. If you look at the box art of the game itself, well, one thing is made clear. You don't exactly get to play as Carl, the man whom has, in fact, been the Sniper Elite of this whole entire time. Instead, there comes his English counterpart, Harry Hawker. And while he's not exactly like Carl by any means, it's good to know that we do have ourselves a second Sniper Elite to go up alongside the legendary Carl in his own right. And I will say that Harry does have his own intuitions, his own personality, and his own emotional spectrum that do in fact play up to his own unique character rather than simply being a Carl 2.0. So it's good to have ourselves something that's a bit different compared to what we've gotten in the original. But much like the other Sniper Elite games, we do have ourselves a selection of missions, with the first being that we gotta make our way over and take out some large guns. They are in fact hovering over a dam, that we gotta blow it up. However, these two artillery weapons are preventing the large squadron of bombers from coming in and blowing the dam up. So as Harry Hawker, it's your mission to get up to them and manually destroy those guns, either by using a satchel charge or by simply aiming one at the other. Yeah, isn't that crazy enough? You get to basically save your resources by aiming one of the turrets at the other one and blowing it up from there. So, talk about being resourceful there. With the second mission, I will say it does get rather difficult. Of course, you have 5 different difficulty options. At first, I started with normal, as my skills in gaming had heightened up to a greater point. But it seems that with this game, they don't mess around. The enemy counts in these games are impressive, but I'd say Resistance seems to go a step above and beyond in terms of sending out the enemies. Quite a bit different than what we got in the previous installments. Harry might not necessarily be a pro at sniping, but it's safe to say that he has his own skill and his own methods of infiltration. And he of course does have his own set of dialogue in order to warn the players about certain situations. Some things that are on the more nutty and comedic ends compared to Carl, whom is in fact of the more determined and no-nonsense variety. So, it's like I've said before. Harry's a bit different, contrast to Carl, but I guess one thing might as well be made clear. How is Carl not even available as a character selection? I mean, when you go up to the workbenches in the levels, as you go forward into the game, there's workbenches of which that you can get yourself some kits. And these kits are in fact unlockables that you can get in your weapons sections, especially with the rifle, SMG, and pistols. And each of these kits can be anything. Stocks, sights, grips, magazine upgrades, different kinds of ammo, including the normal, subsonic, flame, and armor-piercing rounds, as well as non-lethal ammunition. Among many other modifications and decorative bits and pieces that can, in fact, be of customization for you specifically. So I guess this is something that I might as well put on my questionable side. Not exactly good or bad, but not having the inclusion of Carl here, I'll admit, I haven't gone through the whole entire series as it currently stands, but when I remember Sniper Elite 5, the last installment of the series that we got up until this point, where we now have another game, I don't recall Carl ever dying in that installment. So what happened here? Was there lore that I have yet to know about? Is Carl just simply not there for a different reason? Well, I guess we'll never know. The second round, of course, involves Harry Hawker having to go through a garden to find a passageway that leads to some underground tunnels in France. And on top of that, he has to go find some documents that were kept by local police. The Nazis could, in fact, grab a hold of them and use them as intel to attack various SOE agents. Yeah. That, of course, is set as an optional objective, but by grabbing hold of those documents, you can earn some extra XP points. But XP is also gained from exploring the territory, grabbing a hold of certain items, finding secrets, which I managed to do a couple different times, including some dog tags, which, let's be real, collecting dog tags seems to be a mandatory thing, especially when it comes to confirming the kill. Yeah, kind of more of a Call of Duty reference than anything else. Anyways, though, on top of all that, you have to infiltrate the library itself, as well as go up in the Basilica, head to the top, make contact with somebody known as Vertigo, and find out that he unfortunately is already dead. Thankfully, self-infliction is what happened. It wasn't a result of getting captured and tormented until his last dying breath. By exfiltrating, we then move on to the third stage. A nice, dark, and somewhat quiet night where we have to infiltrate a number of places just the same. Except in this case, we have to go down a windy road, cross a bridge, and make our way to some sort of giant hotel that the Nazis have as some sort of HQ. We have to grab a hold of a key, make our way up to the top floor, head to the penthouse, and discover a couple of things. Grabbing some documents from the penthouse and then making our way to the secret passageway that leads to some sort of basement where blueprints can be found, and Harry snaps a photo confirming to the fact that this special Nazi weapon is a chemical weapon of destruction. So we definitely have reached a good turning point at this point in the story. And of course, it's quite a twist. This wasn't just any weapon that the Nazis in this plot were inventing. It was some kind of chemical bioweapon. And man, does it seem intimidating, especially when looking at the maps that they laid out on the wall. Of course, I managed to exfiltrate from that as well, which led us to level 4. However, that is where I currently stopped at. And while I will indeed finish up the game from there, I just felt like recording the video here in order to let you guys know how it all went down at this point. Thankfully, not much is there for me to complain about. Maybe the excess challenge seems to be a bit on the stretch there. Either that or my gaming skills might be getting a bit rusty. I don't know. I guess we'll just chalk it up to the fact that these are challenging games nonetheless. Stealth is probably the best recommendation it can put you through. But then again, you don't exactly get silent bullets all the time. You mostly just are equipped with weapons, not silenced, and with standard ammo. So obviously the main challenge is not only to getting a vantage point, getting sniper shots, but also keeping on the move to prevent yourself from getting targeted by enemies in the area. So you definitely got to take it into consideration. A lot of factors are in these games, and they can certainly lead up to epic clash-ups between one man and large amounts of Nazi scum. Yeah, if you ever played the Wolfenstein games, we can get similar vibes out of that. The only real difference is that Blazkowicz is practically invincible and can wield machine guns like it's nobody's business. But I guess with Carl, Harry, and other SOE resistance fighters, they're mostly just standard soldiers, meant to be on the more skillful side. I mean, they are good marksmen, they're good at keeping on the move, and they're also good at infiltration and collecting intel to help boost their abilities to turn the tide of war. The war that was one of a kind at the time in the 1940s. So, overall, through how it currently stands, Sniper Elite Resistance is pretty good in its own way. It does have a unique storyline with the twisting that gives us a unique chemical bioweapon, which does at least harken back to the points where the other Sniper Elite games gave us similar vibes. We were able to go in further into the levels, progress through the story, find out plot twists, and figure out what kind of super weapons the Nazis are inventing. In pretty much every game, it seems like they have a certain appeal to others and a certain auteur feel to them. With 3, 4, 5, they all have their own unique storylines as well as plot twists. With Resistance, this is more about a chemical weapon as opposed to something like a nuclear sub or something of the sort, a giant tank, or even an army amassment. Yeah, there's just a number of different things that they've explored throughout all the games. And I almost feel like that at some point they're eventually going to run out of ideas and possibly start milking the series dry. Either that or Rebellion could probably make something different in order for us to basically have something new to work with from the same company, which probably would be ideal. So anyways, that's all I got to say about Sniper Elite Resistance. And the scoring for this as it stands so far is at a good 7.3 out of 10.1. So good gameplay, good challenge, and overall a nice variety in different ways. Lots of guns I've never seen before. So it's nice they have inclusions of firearms that date back to those times. Ones that we've never really heard of much before, or ones that are more obscured or lesser known. So that'll pretty much do it for today's video. And I'll be back within a couple weeks to talk a bit more about something that's going to be more recent. We're going to have a good amount of February releases regarding new games, and I'm going to be more excited to talk about such things like the upcoming Monster Hunter Wilds, or possibly even the likes of Like a Dragon, Yakuza Pirates, basically. Yeah, there's a good amount of releases we'll be having throughout this month, and I'll have at least 2 of them to work with. So I'll see you guys until then. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more of these first impression videos.